This is your guide to getting social and finding love in Montreal. I'm Cheryl Besner, your host of Solo in the City, all about dating and relating and mating. And today I'm very happy to be having as my co-host. She is an amazing woman. Erica Diamond is a woman beyond belief. She is the founder of Women on the Fence. She's also a life coach, a weekly lifestyle and parenting correspondent for Global TV, and also has just come up with a new app, and this is all part of today's show. It's called Get Back on the Fence. So Erica, thank you so much for joining me today. And we're going to have a lot of fun while we inform people about getting back on the fence.
I am so thrilled to be here with you today. We're going to have a ball, we're going to have fun, and we're going to learn.
That's right. And most importantly, that's what it's all about, right?
Absolutely.
You know, one of the things that you do and that I love is you really inspire people to go introspective and think, and also to share, because your platform is very much a sharing community. And that's what Solo in the City for me was all about. It's about how we can actually learn from other people's experiences. And, you know, we always say, you know, we learn from our mistakes. Well, we can learn from other people's triumphs as well, and challenges, right?
Absolutely. I don't know if you've read anything on Brene Brown.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, about vulnerability. And so what I learned, and I can't speak for anyone else's experiences, but what I've learned in myself is when you, and it's hard to put yourself out there and to open up and to become vulnerable, because we're so not used to seeing a man or woman appear vulnerable and expose their weaknesses. But I've learned so much for myself in growing and getting off the fence, in being vulnerable and sharing. And so that has been the whole, you know, that's what Women on the Fence has been for me, is it's been my journey. It was my journey documented on getting off the fence and getting unstuck. And so just like you, I learned through sharing and asking questions and being curious and saying, hey, I need help. That's just, and putting it out there through the law of attraction. That's been really a big learning experience for myself.
Yeah, well, and you know, a lot of the listeners who listen on Saturday nights, you might not even know my story, but mine was very much all about just putting it out there. There wasn't a concept behind it when I started 365 Days to Find Love. It was all about, you know what, I'm going through something, and I see a lot of people struggling with all the things that I'm, you know, being challenged by. And I said, you know what, let me start the dialogue. Let me open it up for people to know that we're all the same. And yes, being vulnerable and putting it out there the way I did was beyond my own personal vulnerability. It really exposed a lot of things for a lot of people. So that's what I love about this show and Solo in the City now, is really when people come up to me mostly and say, you know, I listened to your show last week and I love the fact that this guest said this. It really touched me, or they learned something. And that's what Women on the Fence does as well.
You know, you've arrived, Cheryl. You created a platform which allows people to ask questions and learn, and you touch people everywhere to say, that sounds like me. And if she can learn to do it, then I can too.
That's it. And being, you know, a platform also where I can share information. I mean, that's what I really want to do, is share information. So this show today, you know, is really interesting also because I figure it's coming off of Mother's Day earlier this month and everything. And it's very much a woman's month. And by the way, any guys sitting out there listening right now, June is going to be all about you guys as well and how to deal with relationships. So today's is very much about women like myself, but all different backgrounds, who have come from marriages and had to put themselves back together. And myself, for instance, you know, I was a career woman, and then I stopped my career to raise my children, mostly due to a tragic accident that happened to one of my kids that kind of made me realize I wasn't home enough. And I gladly and love the fact that I became a stay-at-home mom, which was the best job I ever had. But then you get divorced and you say, now what? You know, so you're dealing with a loss of something, and then you realize you have to also deal with the loss and also then recreate. So a lot of the women that are coming on today's show are in the process of recreating, which is a great time for women and men.
And but scary. Transition is always hard, right? Transitional periods when we're not there, when we haven't yet jumped to the other side. So it'll be an interesting show because these are, you know, these stories Important to tell too.
And it is. And, we did a show once about fire walking, and Nancy Chernoff here in Montreal actually does this program, and she'll be doing it this summer. And you can sign up for it, by the way. Check out Nancy Chernoff. And I think it's called Fearless Flames.
My mom did that with Tony Robbins, I think, years ago.
Oh,
right?
amazing.
Like the firework where you walk.
Yeah, you walk across
my
it.
mom did it.
And they do it. So one of the co-hosts from earlier months, Marie-Claude Savard, we've decided we're going to do it this summer. And that's what it's all about, taking that first step and knowing, for some of us, knowing where you want to be can be very scary when you look at the distance between here and there. But if you take, that perspective and you just, throw it off to your trajectory a little bit to your right and then slowly climb that mountain instead of just trying to jump to where you want to be, it's less scary.
Oprah has a great, I quote this a lot in my work, and she says, when I'm at a place of difficulty, I say, what is the next right step? And then the next right step, and then the next right step, because to look too far down the road at like, what's the big solution is too overwhelming and too scary. So what is the next right move? And can I pivot to there? And then when I get there, what's the next right move? And like, it sounds so obvious and like such common sense, but it's a really less overwhelming way to get through difficult periods in our life.
And that's some of the things that we've talked about in Soul in the City is, when we're getting back out there and, you find yourself alone, we're rebuilding ourselves in completion, including finding a partner, and how to go about that. And that's, again, where 365 Days came about, was talking about all the different ways that we can find people to socialize with, to have a relationship with, to marry if that's what we so choose, and that's a different type of love for everybody and how to get there. So, we talk about ways of just getting more social, which is one of the things that I always promote, is just going out there and finding things you love to do and do them, right? Yeah. And then that step, just by joining a gym or an activity program or an art class, shows you, I can communicate. There's your first step.
Yeah, and just by being out there, all the incredible people that you meet that propel you forward towards your next journey. So thinking that you're so stuck and unable to move, by just going, like you said, just making the choice to, I'm going to take a painting class, or I'm going to join a gym, or I'm going to work on my passion project. Just meeting those new people and introducing that whole concept into your life takes you. I think this is kind of like all, or I don't want to get all spiritual on us, but I think those are really important decisions you make. Mm-hmm. And there's no accident that these people are that you make the right choices, and then somehow, boom, the right person you were looking for just shows up. It's not a coincidence. It's because you were proactive.
Nothing's a coincidence,
Nothing's
right?
a coincidence.
Nothing's a coincidence.
But it's because you made a decision to be proactive, and
Yeah.
you didn't just lay down and say, woe is me, and I can't do this.
Right. And interesting, though, I was talking with a client actually this week from Toronto, and it's also a matter of having the right attitude. Because, interesting, she's just getting back on the fence as far as her dating life. And she said, I'm going on this date. She called me. She wanted a little coaching beforehand. And she said, I'm going on this date today, and, it's going to be okay. I'm not really into it. And I went, so why are you going? If you're going in with that attitude, there's nothing that can happen here. Yeah. You have to go on with the right attitude here.
This could be the greatest thing since sliced bread for me.
Because it could be, because maybe the person as you walk in who holds the door for you is the person you're meant to be, right? Or meant to be with. So we don't know these things. So anyway, it's going to be a lot of fun. I want to talk further, actually, in the show about getting back on the fence. And it just seems perfect that you're here, a woman on the fence, and helping, everybody out there listening to find out ways in which we can do just that. And we're going to listen to other stories of women who have either gotten back on the fence or getting back on the fence, and who are also trying to paint their fence a different color, right?
Love it.
Me too.
Very excited.
Coming up on Solo, the expert, Donna DeLuca. She's a self-esteem specialist and a motivational speaker, and she's going to be joining us talking about how she got back on the fence. You're listening to Solo in the City on CJAD 800.